And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
The Fraggle Brothers always come up with a new and interesting game every year. I don't always think they're the greatest games, but they have come up with some pretty good ones, and this, I think, may be their best one since Leapfrog, and that's Snowtails. Snowtails is a racing game in which you're racing a dog sled, and now the game was very, very well done, and now that it's come out from Asmodee, it's a really nice addition. It's very easy, although I will say that younger kids will have a more difficult time with steering of the sled, but it has some interesting mechanics, and it's a lot of fun. Let's look at the racetrack. All right, here's a racetrack that I've made up. This is a very simple, very small racetrack. The game comes with all kinds of pieces, and you can make all kinds of curves and horrible, difficult racetracks, but let's just look at something very simple. Each person gets a piece, which is their sled, and then they actually have profile of their sled in front of them. So let's take a closer look at this sled. The sled comes with two pre-printed 3s on it. Each dog here is running at the speed of 3, and then you start with a brake piece here of 3, and you can put in different brake pieces as the game progresses. Players also start with a deck of cards of their color, and they will draw a hand of those cards, and on their turn, a player can play as many cards as they want that are the same number. So let's say, for example, all I did was play 1 4. I could play another 4 if I wanted, or if I could play a third 4 by discarding 1, and that would change my break also to 4. I could play any number I want, and the cards are numbered from 1 to 5, but I can't play a 4 and a 1. I can only play one kind of number, and I can play it up to 3 times. Once I'm done playing whatever cards I want to play, we then look at the sled. The two dogs added together, 4 plus 3, is the speed of the sled, 7, minus the brakes, 3. So my sled goes 4 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4. However, looking back at the sled, one dog is running slightly faster than the other dog. And that's going to cause the sled to veer in the opposite direction. So by doing this, my sled is going to go 1 space over here. It's going to crash. So let's pretend I put the 4 on the other side. And I started here, and I would go 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth move would be diagonal. And that's basically how you steer your sled, by making one dog run faster than the other. So to make the sled go faster, you increase the speed of the dogs, or both dogs, to make it go, and decrease the brake. To make it go slower, you increase the brake or decrease the speed of the dogs. And to steer the sled, you change how the dogs move. Now, let's say you hit a side, or you hit another player, or you go too fast into a curve. If you look up here, you'll see that there's a number here at the beginning of this curve. If a player is going over that speed while moving, they will also take some damage. Damage is represented by taking damage cards. These are cards that go into your hand and basically keep your hand from being full of number cards, which you want it to be full of number cards so that you have more choices on how to steer your sled. Obviously, the more times you hit the wall, the more time you hit other players, the more time you go into a curve going too fast, the more of these cards you'll have in your hand, and eventually, if you have too many of them, your sled will crash. Now, the first person to cross the finish line is the winner. If multiple players go across on the same time, whoever goes the farthest is the winner. One big feature of the game is if your sled is balanced. And balance would be if your dogs are running at the same speed. So let's say both my dogs are running at speed 4. My sled is balanced. So it's 8 minus 3 is for the brake right now. And so I'm going to go 5 spaces. But because my sled is balanced, 3, 4, 5, I can go additional spaces. The amount of spaces you can go is the position you are in the race. So if I was in 5th place, I can go 5 more spaces. I can't go 1, 2, 3, or 4. I have to go 5. So that's a bonus that I can take or I can leave it. It's up to me, but you have to be careful because taking that bonus may make you go into a curve too quickly or hit other sleds. Near the end of the race, though, it's interesting because sometimes being in last place can give you the game because that extra 5 bonus will take you that much farther across the finish line. Think the game sounds too easy? Well, I can understand that. So then you can simply add these pieces to the race, where there's a chasm where you have to go through a narrow section. Or you can add trees to your track using a piece with trees, and the game actually comes with little wooden trees, and you're basically trying to dodge these trees. I find that these, while they look really cool, really tend to make the track very difficult, hitting these trees, going through these chasms. So if I add something like this to my tracks, then I will pick maybe one thing, one difficult section of the track. Adding more is just really, really crazy. But the rulebook comes with several preset tracks that you can make, but you can make anything you want. And that's basically the game. The game also comes with, there's a few other minor rules, and there's some rules regarding tournaments and how to score. One thing the game includes that I think is hilarious is this piece. It's called the Big Pause. And you give this piece to someone who's taking too long to decide what to do on their turn. Okay, very useful, I guess. This game doesn't seem to have too much analysis paralysis, but this piece can be used in other games. It just cracks me up because my daughter is constantly saying, Dad, in the middle of another game we're playing with someone who's taking too long on their turn, and she says, Dad, do you know where that big pause piece is? And the other person looks at her like they don't know what she's talking about, but it still makes me smile. Bring out the big pause. Again, excellent components, really nice double-sided boards so that you can put them on the board different ways. The idea of the sleds is really interesting because each board has a yellow and red flag on it, so you know which direction the track is going. And then you take your dog and you turn it in front of you, and it has a yellow and red flag on it so that you know exactly how your dog is turning while on the track. And that's a really neat mechanic. The cards are nice quality, the little brake pieces, you'll be changing those out as you change the speed of your brakes, and with multiple different racetracks is a lot of fun. Someone could slow the game down, and sometimes the game can seem to drag. I would say one of the things that I don't enjoy as much about the game is that younger kids really have a hard time steering. It just takes them a while to get into that fact that the dog that's running faster, if the dog's running faster on this side, he causes a sled to turn this way. But that's good. It's a good teaching experience, but I've yet to see kids do very well at this. They almost always seem to crash, which is a bit discouraging while playing the game. But still, lots of fun. It's very unique and very entertaining, and most people will pick it up easily. A great racing game from the Fragor Brothers.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.